Live from the Glasgow Electric Plant Board, Glasgow Wants to Know. With your host, Mr. Uhel Barrickman.
Glasgow Cable and WCLU welcomes you to a special edition of Glasgow Wants to Know. Tonight we are fortunate in having the candidates for the ninth senatorial seat of the Kentucky Senate present to answer questions concerning certain issues that may be coming before a special session of the General Assembly if the governor decides to call one, and issues which will certainly come before the general session, the next general session of the legislature. I want to emphasize in the beginning that this is not a debate, but an interview. I think it was mentioned in the daily paper that it would be a debate. It is not a debate. I also want to urge everyone listening and urge you to tell your friends, urge you to go out and vote, and to tell your friends to go out and vote in this special election, which will be held Tuesday, June the 25th. There will be another election, of course, in November for the four-year term, but this election is to fill the seat that was vacated by Justice Baker when he became a member of the Supreme Court. It is an important election because the governor keeps indicating that he may call a General Assembly session to deal with several problems that are facing the Commonwealth. First, I want to introduce the Republican candidate for Baker's vacant seat, Richie Sanders of Edmonson County. Richie, briefly give the audience your background and where you live, your occupation, your education.
My name is Richie Sanders, graduate from Edmonson County High School and a graduate of Western Kentucky University, where I just received a degree in political science with a minor in history and public administration. I live in the Cleveland Springs area of Edmonson County, where I grow tobacco. I live on a farm, have been involved in some real estate business, developing subdivisions and that sort of thing, and a member of the Edmonson County Lions Club, the Kentucky Beef Cattle Association, and the Saddle Club.
And I believe that you are presently a member of the House, the General Assembly.
I'm currently a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, where I serve on the Transportation Committee, the Agriculture and Small Business Committee, the Tobacco Task Force, and the Energy and Tourism Committee.
Mr. Dickinson, give a brief review of your background.
Thank you very much, Uhel. I've lived in Glasgow all of my life except for the time that I've spent at Western Kentucky University, and periods of active duty both in the United States Marines and the Army Reserve and units of the National Guard. I graduated from Glasgow High School. I attended Western Kentucky University. I completed a program in small business management, which is a two-year degree, and did not file for the degree. Since then, I have been engaged in the insurance business here in Glasgow and Barron County, and I have been a magistrate and a four-term member of the Glasgow City Council. I've been extremely active in the JCs and in many other civic organizations, Board of Directors of Life Skills and Habitat for Humanity, to name a few. I've been married to a very wonderful lady, Pat Martin of Bowling Green, for the last 28 years. We have two grown children, John and Kathy Turner, and a beautiful two-year-old granddaughter, Kelsey.
I think we will begin the questioning tonight on some of the issues that were passed by the last session of the General Assembly, and which I think, based on what I read and what I hear, have caused the most discussion since then. And one, of course, is the bill that authorized the what the Federal Bacon Act in Kentucky, which will raise the, or probably going to raise the cost of construction of public buildings. Of course, that was passed while you were a member of the legislature, Mr. Sanders. Were you for or against that bill?
I voted against that bill because of the effect it was going to have on the local schools in this area. The prevailing wage bill was going to raise the construction price of schools from anywhere from 10 to 25%. And I felt like that in this time where tax dollars are so scarce that we needed to be trying to build more schools with less money, and that was my position.
I feel relatively sure that at a session of the legislature, not necessarily a special one, which would be limited to the governor's call, but I feel this matter is going to come up again during whichever one of you, during the term of whichever one of you becomes a senator for 4 years. So, Mr. Dickinson, what's your position on that?
My position on prevailing wage is that I support the essential parts of it. I still have a problem with the portion of that bill that deals with public structures.
Well, what would you propose to do about it?
Well, there was an amendment, Uhel, to that bill, and Richie, please correct me if I'm wrong about this. There was an amendment to that bill that would have excluded public school buildings from that act. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I think I would have supported such an amendment, but I would also support the basics of the Prevailing Wage Act.
I also hear much comment again on the authorizations for Kentuckians to carry concealed weapons. Were you for or against that bill, Mr. Sanders?
I was for that bill. I ran a survey in my area and in past areas. I've ran surveys because I want to know what the input of the people is. And the people in my district at that time, the majority were in favor of that bill. And I voted in favor.
Were you personally in favor of it?
I was personally in favor of it. I think that there has been a outcry for people being able to protect themselves. If my feeling is, if you take the guns away from the good people, the crooks are still going to have the weapons.
Mr. Dickinson.
Uhel, I would have voted for that bill, but strictly on a constitutional line. I think the Constitution guarantees citizens the right to bear arms. I personally have a problem with it. I don't go armed. I don't encourage people to go armed. I don't recommend that people go armed. And I am afraid that that is going to lead to some problems down the line.
Well, continuing on that line, would you think then that the Constitution would prevent the legislature from limiting assault rifles, for instance?
Would you mind to define assault rifle?
Well, these AK, whatever the numbers that they're talking about.
AK-47. I don't support banning any semi-automatic weapon. No, based on constitutional grounds.
Mr. Sanders?
I do not support banning any weapons.
Regardless of the type. I want to be sure that I'm understanding both of you.
I think, yes. I think there is a need for there needs to be some ban, and they are illegal today, machine guns, that sort of thing.
Well, I was going to ask you if you go so far as machine guns. What about you, Mr. Dickinson?
I think fully automatic weapons today are available to dealers and collectors. I don't support public ownership of fully automatic weapons.
I'm also hearing quite a bit of comment about the revision of the legislative ethics code. And from what I read in the paper in the beginning of it, I didn't anticipate any great outcry about that, but there have been 2 members of the committee that have already resigned in protest. I gather that the essential change was that under the act before it was changed by the last session, the commission or committee that was to enforce the ethics could investigate anything on their own without a complaint having been filed, and the last legislature changed that, and now the committee cannot act unless a complaint is filed, and only on the complaint or what may be discovered as a result of investigating the complaint. Mr. Dickinson.
Yes, sir.
Do you favor the present law, or would you be in favor of the previous law?
I'd be very much in favor of returning to the previous law, and my opponent voted, I believe, to stay with that law, and I commend him for it. The last legislative session, in my opinion, had much less special interest influence than sessions of the past, and I think that the initial Ethics Act was responsible for that, and I support a return to it.
I did support the leaving the law as it was in previous sessions, where that they would have the right to do investigations on their own, because I felt like that was there should be a watch group over the legislature. I did vote also against the 50% pay raise issue, because I felt like that was something that my constituents didn't want, and I always try to represent what the people want.
That raises an interesting question that I'm going to ask both of you a little later, but I don't want to get to it yet. Another subject that I'm hearing various things about was the increase from, what was it, $300 that you could contribute to a candidate to, what, $1,000?
It went from 500 to
500 to 1,000 instead of 300. I'm hearing comments about that. Did you support that, or did you vote against that, Mr. Sanders?
I voted against that. I represent poor people, and I feel like that this raising the contribution level to $1,000 allowed outside earners to come into the district, and I felt like that wasn't something that was good for Kentucky.
Mr. Dickinson.
I'm in complete agreement with him. I'm finding out in this race how difficult it is to raise money with a $500 limit. But I agree with Mr. Sanders 100% that if we limit that, it'll allow much more dependence on behalf of candidates for office, much more dependence on the smaller contributor. And I think that was the intent of the law, and I certainly support that. The
94 health care reform law was revised in the last session of the legislature. Of course, you're in the health care business, in a sense.
Yes, sir.
Did you agree with the change that was made?
I did not. To elaborate on that,
First, explain, if you will, what the change was.
One major change was to exempt associations from what we call modified community rating. Modified community rating means that the experience of the group over which that risk is spread cannot be a factor in setting premium rates for those groups. Now, either we use modified community rating for all players or we should use it for none. But to exempt one segment of the economy from that rating system will serve to make the Health Purchasing Alliance, in my opinion, a high-risk pool and give associations a distinct advantage in the marketplace. Now, once associations who can use experience rating have poor experience, and they will have poor experience as the group of insured people ages. Once they have bad experience, they will see a significant increase in premiums, and they then will go back to the Health Purchasing Alliance, which again will guarantee that that will be a high-risk pool and defeat the purpose of the Health Purchasing Alliance.
So you would have opposed the change?
Yes, sir, I would have.
Mr. Sanders, were you for or against it?
I was for repealing the health care.
The whole plan?
The whole plan. I think that we should have repealed it and started over again. There's been problems. It's put a hardship on families. It's put a hardship on farmers. And I thought that we should have repealed the whole plan and started over. Like Mr. Dickinson has stated, I feel like that with the associations being exempted, and I felt like that everyone should have been exempted. If it was going to apply to one group, it should have applied to everyone.
I feel that subject's going to come up again as soon as the legislature, you have a session of the legislature where it can come up, whether it's a special session called by the governor and included in it or a regular session. As a part of that, or at least I think it was tied into it, was the repeal of the tax on doctors that had been enacted. I believe that was the '94 session also,
yes,
as well as hospitals and pharmacists to help defray the cost of Medicaid. And the part of the act taxing the doctors was repealed in the last legislature. Were you for that?
I voted to repeal the tax on physicians, on the health cares. I was also in favor of taking the 75 cents tax on prescription drugs off, because I felt like that was a hardship on senior citizens.
But what about the hospitals?
The hospitals, of course, there wasn't a bill to exempt them from hospitals, and that rural hospitals use that money to match Medicaid money to help keep the doors open, and I think that that's something that rural Kentucky needs.
Mr. Dickinson, what's your position on those taxes?
I certainly supported removing the taxes on physicians, taxes on prescriptions. To address the tax on providers, many parts of Kentucky and many parts of this district are having a very difficult time attracting and keeping physicians here in rural areas. And to tax the providers is going to inhibit attracting those providers to this area. In addition, the Health Care Act, the Health Care Reform Act, was to serve to make health care available to more of our citizens. And the provider tax can only serve to increase the cost to those citizens.
Since we're talking about taxes, we might as well get into that field. And the first question I have, there has been much discussion for several years in the state now, to the effect by many people that the whole state tax code should be revised from A to Z. Do you have any stand on that, Mr. Sanders?
while I do feel like there is need for reforming taxes in Kentucky, there's a lot of exemptions for farmers and for small businesses in Kentucky, and I would have to look very carefully at what happened with any tax bill. I wouldn't be for putting any tax increases on anyone.
Mr. Dickinson.
I concur with Mr. Sanders. Most of our citizens have a minimum federal tax rate of 15%. The Kentucky state income tax, I think, is in the neighborhood of 7%. And when you put the employees' portion of Social Security, which is in excess of 7% on top of that, you're looking at 35, 40, and even 50% in some cases of taxation on wage earners' pay. As a small businessman, I certainly understand the impact of those high taxes, both for the employer and the employee. I cannot conceive, I will not, let me go even further than that, I will not support a tax increase. I would consider a revision of the taxation laws, but by no means would I vote for a tax increase. I would also like to see much less paperwork involved in the filing of taxes. I would like to see a simpler form.
I take it's fair to say then that each of you, and if I'm wrong in the statement I'm going to make, correct it, but I think it's fair to say that each of you is opposed to any increase in any tax or any new tax. Is that your position?
That is correct.
Is that your position,
Yes,
Mr.
sir,
Dickinson? Now, let's examine that a minute. The federal Congress yesterday, both the Senate is the one that acted yesterday, and the House the day before. And according to a news report in this morning's paper, and I had read about it before, that budget cuts $158 billion from the Medicare program, $72 billion from Medicaid, and $70 billion from welfare in the next 6 years and beginning next year. And of course, with that limit, they are limiting the amount of money that's going to come to the state of Kentucky and all other states for these particular programs. Now, I realize that that budget hasn't been approved by the President, but there's going to be a similar budget regardless before this Congress is over up there, because the Democrats have a budget that's cutting the same thing. They're going to leave all of this stuff up to the states, according to both budgets, the way I understand it, and there'll be grants to the states of this limited money. Who's going to make up for that, and how's the state going to make up for that? Does you or your party, Kentucky Party, Mr. Sanders, have any program to attack that?
I think what people want when I talk to them is less government in their life. They want welfare recipients. They want people to work. I think we all want to help people, help themselves. But people are tired of seeing people drawing welfare benefits and having no incentive to do anything. You know, I live on a tobacco farm, and I grow tobacco. And when it comes time to set plants, pull plants, cut tobacco, I have a hard time getting help. And one of the reasons, there's plenty of labor available in the area, but a lot of them are drawing benefits, and they will tell you outright, they say, we can't work for you because we will lose our benefits. Now, I think that I have supported and will continue to support looking at ways to gradually get people off of welfare and get them into the workplace, because that's what people are tired of. As for the Medicaid issue and having people in the nursing home, I think we need to look at some innovative ways there, where families can take care of families once again. And I think that government has become doing a salvo problem for everything, and I think that's the wrong approach.
Again, I take it then, and don't think I'm neglecting you. I'll get to you in a minute. I take it then that insofar as you know, there's no program insofar as the state Republican Party is concerned to take up any slack that may be created by these new budgets, and you intend to operate on just what you get regardless of what happens.
My approach would be to look at where the fat is and cut that out.
And of course you've been hearing that for ever since you've been out of school, and both parties have had an opportunity to cut the fat, and they never cut enough fat to do anything about it. Have you got any proposals as to what fat you're going to cut?
Well, I think one thing that I'm opposed of is having this New Hampshire firms doing the testing on the carrot testing. You know, I saw where they're getting like $3.38 million over a 4-year period. I think that that money is too much for an out of firm to be doing those testing. That money could be better spent, could be done at a cheaper rate, and the local university should be involved in helping develop some testing, because that's where most of the students are going to go anyway.
That's another issue we want to come to shortly. Insofar as you know from your limited experience with I suppose, with the powers that be in the state Democratic Party now, is there any plan as far as the state Democratic Party is concerned to make up for the shortfall in funds from the federal government? There's no doubt, I don't believe you doubt, if you read the paper and everything that's been going on, that there's going to be a drastic cut in the amount of federal funds that's going to come to this state for these 3 programs that I talked about: Medicaid, welfare, and Medicare. Now, as far as you know, is there any state program within the Democratic Party to meet that issue, and how you're going to have a budget to take care of Kentucky with that shortfall?
As far as I know, the party has not developed a plan to meet that problem, and it's certainly going to be an acute problem. I have not heard that discussed. I think it should be addressed, and addressed immediately. I am happy that more welfare is going to be turned over to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We've got to do a better job of it than the federal government. Nobody could possibly do a worse job of welfare than the federal government. We have got to quit paying people not to work. We have got to provide more incentives to get people back to work instead of creating another generation of welfare dependents.
You were speaking of higher education. The governor seems to be interested in higher education. And apparently, based again on all reports that you hear, and particularly from what the presidents of the various universities say, higher education has been neglected insofar as finances are concerned for the past 6, 8 to 10 years. Are you in favor of more money for higher education, Mr. Sanders?
I think we need to look at higher education. When I talk to parents who send their children to universities, they tell me that every year there's been a fee increase, that they're having to pay a higher tuition rate. And I think it needs to be looked at some of the programs that the various universities offer, and have some consolidation of some of those programs. I think we need to do a better job with what we have, and I think that's what Governor Patton has emphasized. He's told the university's presidents to get together and sit down and see what you can come up with, and if you can't make a decision, then the state's going to step in and try to do things in a more efficient way. And I think that's what he said, is that he wants to try to reward universities that come up with creative ideas and do things better and different than they have in the past.
Mr. Dickinson.
I think it's high time that Kentucky woke up to the fact that in order to continue to have any success at economic development, we have got to have an improved educational system at all levels, including higher education. As I said before, and I will state it again, I am not for raising taxes under any circumstances. If more money must be spent at the university and college level, then we're going to have to, the budget must be balanced. We'll have to cut services or raise taxes. I'm opposed to raising those taxes. I would like to see government spend money in a more efficient manner. On that point, Governor Jones had a commission on efficiency in government, which was headed by Jimmy Gray, a former Glasgow resident. And I think the state would do well to seriously consider implementing the recommendations of that commission. But as much as I support higher education, we've either got to be more efficient, or we've got to cut programs. I am not in support of raising taxes under any circumstances. But I think there is a world of waste in government that can be saved through more efficient government.
There has been some proposals to consolidate the vocational schools and the community colleges. You have any opinion about that, Mr. Dickinson?
Yes, I think that probably makes a good deal of sense. And we need to put more emphasis on vocational schools, more training for employees, more training assistance for our manufacturers. But I think consolidation of those two institutions makes a good deal of economic sense and should be addressed.
Mr. Sanders.
I would not be for consolidation of universities, because we don't know which ones will be the ones to consolidate. Now, if I sat down and I saw a plan and could tell me which one was going to be phased out, then I would have to look at that specific plan at that time. But to say that I would be in favor of it, they could say we're going to take the Glasgow campus back and consolidate it back with Western, and I think that's something that doesn't need to happen. So I would have to look at a specific plan.
Since we're on education, were you in the House when CARA was passed?
No, sir. I was not a member of the House of Representatives when CARA passed.
What is your opinion as to CARA from the standpoint of whether it is good or whether it needs certain modifications, and if so, what modifications?
I think there's been some good parts of CARA. I think the Family Resource Center has really helped a lot of children who were disadvantaged. It's helped parents. That's been a positive thing that CARA has brought about. The focus on education has been a positive part of CARA. I think there is some things that need to be modified and need to be changed, and one of them is the testing program. Kentucky, I think, needs to come up with one standardized test for that we can compare Kentucky children with children across the country and be able to say how Kentucky's children are doing compared to Tennessee children or compared to Indiana children. And I think the testing program that we have now, there's been a lot of news stories about it and so forth that has been proven to be flawed, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Speaking of the community service program, It is my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it is my understanding that that has been limited to certain areas in the state because of lack of funds. Is that correct?
There has been new ones that have come on every session of the legislature since I've been a member of the legislature, and it has been limited to funding issue. And yes, it is correct to say that all areas don't have the Family Resource Center. But I think that's one of the most important things that have come about to those areas that need it.
Would you be in favor of increasing funding for those centers?
I think that that's one of the things that would need to be looked at, and that would become as a high priority to me in education, would be helping the Family Resource Center.
As far as the consolidation of the first 4 grades are concerned, what's your position on that?
I think one of the things with CARA was local control, and I think that should be a local decision.
Mr. Dickinson, what's your thoughts and beliefs about CARA as to its usefulness and whether it needs to be changed, and if so, what? And what do you think of the family resources part of it? And I realize that we haven't had it here in Glasgow as yet, so we haven't actually had too much experience with it.
I'd first of all like to apologize to the audience that I have not done enough research on CARA to be more than basically conversant in it. In addition to that, the people that I have talked with are pro-CARA, and I have input only from one side. As with any new program, and as with any dynamic change such as the CARA system, there are bound to be growing pains. And I think the system needs to be given a chance to work, and I think it needs to be constantly monitored. And I think changes do need to be implemented. I'm very concerned about the curious testing. I'm very concerned about the ungraded primary. Again, I want you to understand that all of my input has been from those of pro-CARA, and I have not gotten a lot of input from the opposite side. I will keep an open mind on that issue, and I will get a great deal of information from the other side of that issue before I formulate definite decisions on the matter.
You say, excuse me, go ahead.
Regarding the Family Resource Center, again, I have to apologize. I have not done enough research on this particular issue, and I'm not familiar with the Family Resource Center.
You say you think the system needs a lot of monitoring. By whom?
I suppose the Kentucky Department of Education and regular reports to the legislature.
Well, isn't it true that oftentimes, as far as what the Kentucky Department of Education does is more or less like having the fox take care of the hen house?
I don't know that that's true. I suspect that that could be the case frequently. But somebody's got to monitor it. And if indeed that's the case, if the fox is in charge of the hen house, then we need another bureau to monitor that particular issue.
Have you got any comments to make, Mr. Sanders?
Yes, I have. I feel like that we don't need any more bureaucrats telling us how to do the education from Frankfurt. That was one of the goals behind CARA. One of the positive sides that's really not come about is it should be local control. I think that local decisions should decide how the schools are run and what programs are offered, and I think that decisions should be made locally rather than from Frankfurt.
Then I take it that you are very much in favor and think that these site-based councils for the various schools have worked well.
I think that the site-based councils have when they've been able to make decisions, but so often they haven't been able to really make the decisions on the schools. The KEP test that came about was mandated down from Frankfurt, and the local people here weren't able to decide how to formulate their grade cards. So I think that's been a problem. Too much Frankfort, not enough Glasgow, Barron County, Metcalfe County.
The KEA was in favor of the bill and had it introduced in the last session and almost got it passed. I think it did pass in the House, the bill for collective bargaining for teachers and cities from the 1st through the 4th class. And I believe the governor supported that bill. Mr. Sanders, am I correct? It passed the House?
It failed the House. But it was
passed. Didn't it pass one of the bodies? One of?
No, it was a close vote, but it didn't.
It failed both houses.
Both houses.
Did you vote for or against it?
I voted against it because I felt that's what the majority of the people I represented wanted.
Are you in favor of the KEA having collective bargaining and cities from the 4th class to, now they have it already in as far as 1st class cities is concerned. Or I believe it's limited to Jefferson County. But anyhow, they do have it in Louisville. But under Kentucky law, as it exists now, it's illegal. It's not the law, except I think it's limited to Jefferson County, but I'm not absolutely sure of that.
I'm not opposed to employees and employers sitting down and discussing issues. I'm not opposed to collective bargaining. I will not vote for collective bargaining unless there is a strict no strike clause, because the services that are provided by these employees are too important to all of the citizens to allow strikes. But I have no opposition to employees and employers sitting down and discussing issues.
They can do that under existing law. Again, back to taxes. There was a proposal in the last legislature to repeal or for a constitutional amendment that would do away with intangibles and unmined mineral taxes. And in order to do away with them, you would have to have a constitutional an amendment, and have to be approved by the voters as a whole. Did you vote for or against that act, Mr. Sanders?
I was in favor of the intangible tax reduction, tax, phasing it out. Since that time, there's been I think a U.S. Supreme Court case similar to Kentucky, North Carolina, that basically ruled that I think there's going to be a ruling probably coming down that says Kentucky's intangible tax is unconstitutional. So hopefully that will not be an issue that will have to be faced by the legislature. The courts will make a decision, and I think it's inhibited Kentucky. You know, if I want to borrow money from my father to build a house, then I've got to pay an intangible tax back on the money that I'm borrowing from my father to build a house. And I don't feel like that's right.
Mr. Dickinson.
I think we need to be extremely careful when we tinker with the Constitution. However, I am in favor of repealing the intangible tax.
There was also a bill to authorize local governments to pass and enforce curfew laws for teenagers. I believe that one failed also. Were you for or against that one, Mr. Sanders?
I think that the local government should have a decision on that issue. They should be able to make a decision on whether there is a local curfew or not, and I was in favor of that issue.
Mr. Dickinson.
You may recall, Uhel, that we had a curfew in Glasgow when I was a teenager, and I'm sure you think I needed it. But I'm in agreement with Richie that local governments should be able to call curfew if necessary.
Now, if the law concerning that is passed, should it go as far as some states have gone? I think maybe it was Michigan, where it was not only the teenager could be penalized, but his parents could be fined and so forth, not only for breaking the curfew, but for certain criminal offenses. And that law is in Michigan now, and recently there was parents convicted under that law. There's some talk about it. I've heard some talk about it locally, and both pro and con. My guess is it'll eventually reach the legislature, probably within the next 4 years. Would you be in favor of that, Mr. Sanders, or opposed?
Would have to look at the specifics first, but I do feel like that families parents should have some responsibility with their children, and I think that this would be an incentive. So generally, I would be in favor of it, but I would want to look at the specific piece of legislation before I'd make a decision.
Mr. Dickinson.
There's got to be a way to get people to accept more responsibility, but I don't know what the answer is. Just sitting and thinking about that particular issue, when I was a teenager, if I really wanted to go out, you couldn't have kept me at home, and I don't think parents can do that today with unruly children. My children are my responsibility. They were my responsibility prior to becoming adults, and I accept that responsibility. But I do not think that parents should be punished for acts of the children when they're not within the parents' sight.
One issue that is definitely being discussed all over the state now, some by planned meetings encouraged by the governor, is the matter of workmen's compensation law. Business in particular, I think, wants it revised. Labor unions, I gather from what I read and what little I hear from them, they're very much opposed to it. You've got lawyers on both sides, probably the majority of them not wanting anything done to it. But as usual, there is a division there, and some say yes and some say no. Insofar as you are concerned, Mr. Sanders, do you think the law needs revision, or should it be left as it is?
The law definitely needs revision in Kentucky.
Why?
Because of the rates. The rates in Kentucky are twice as what they are in neighboring Tennessee, and twice the amount of what they are in Indiana. And businesses just can't compete. It doesn't. Kentucky's not. It's not as attractive whenever that's facing the business. Also, I've saw statistics where about 70% of all workmen's compensation claims are paid out east of I-75, which is over in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, which is a coal mining area. I feel like that there should be maybe some classifications by zones, and that would help bring the rates down in this area. And that would be something that I would look at and be favorable of.
Well, I think it's generally conceded that the black lung claims in eastern Kentucky, and particularly in the mining area up there, contributes greatly to the high cost of work comp rates in Kentucky.
Let me say one other thing. I think that when a worker actually gets hurt on the job, that he should be able to get some help, because that's what workers' compensation is set up for. I'm also in favor of looking at the possibility of putting workers' compensation and health insurance together. That's something that needs to be done. You know, employers pay health insurance and they pay workers' compensation on the same employee. Looks like that we could come up with a plan, or that they would just have to make the one payment for workers' compensation and health care all together, and that should help bring some rates down.
Mr. Dickinson.
I think Mr. Sanders has a very good point about combining the elements of workers' compensation insurance and health care insurance. The 94 legislature passed House Bill 250, which in fact authorized a pilot program just of that description. Studies have shown that fully 15% of health insurance premiums are directly attributable to administrative costs. Now, while I'm not an expert on workers' comp insurance, I dare say that fully 15% of workers' comp insurance rates are directly attributable to administrative costs. Putting the two in one package can only serve to reduce those premiums, and I think that's an excellent idea. The state has a pilot program going on that now. It's a very slow-moving program, but I think it deserves a great deal more attention. I don't think any of us want to see a worker who is legitimately injured on the job. I don't think any of us want to see him not taken care of. I think both employers and legislators, all citizens in Kentucky want legitimately injured workers to be justly compensated, and I do too. The definition of injury must be strengthened, and I don't think that's unfriendly to labor, and I'll elaborate on that in just a second. Workers' comp has a great deal of fraud involved in it, and I hear horror stories daily of fraudulent claims, people who are drawing workers' compensation money and who are as healthy as any of us. So there's a good deal of fraud in that system, and that needs to be policed more strictly. The definition of injury, I think, needs to be redefined. It needs to be tightened up. We need to be able to nail it down that the injury is a direct result of something in the workplace and not the result of the natural aging process. That may sound unfriendly to labor. I think that definition or that idea is labor friendly because I think it will serve to reduce workers' comp rates, and in reducing workers' compensation rates, we will be better able to compete with Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, West Virginia, and Tennessee to locate new industry here in Kentucky. So I think that approach can be both friendly to business and to labor.
You have any other comment about workman's compensation, Mr. Sanders, before we go to another subject?
I think workers' compensation has to be addressed if Kentucky's going to be competing for jobs, and it's a problem for employers.
I would point out to both of you, since you mentioned the idea of combining health insurance and work comp together, that you are putting it under governmental administration and a bureaucracy. One's already under a bureaucracy insofar as administration is concerned, workman's compensation. You put the health program there, and you're going to have it in a bureaucracy, And I don't know whether you're going to solve any problems or whether you're going to complicate them. Just keep it in mind, gentlemen. One issue that we haven't touched at all, I'm somewhat reluctant to touch it because it is an emotional one, and but nonetheless it comes up in the every legislature. That's this business of passing a law requiring a 24-hour waiting period for abortions and costly rules for abortion clinics. And I think the bill also contained a provision about talking to the person designing the abortion and counseling with them.
Informed consent.
Since you were in the legislature, and I take it had something to do with the bill one way or another, Mr. Sanders, I'll ask you first your position on that.
I'm pro-life. I've been for that. I've been for that particular legislation. I feel like that that a woman has a right to know.
Mr. Dickinson.
I'm personally opposed to abortion. I've tried very hard to put myself into a woman's shoes, or a young girl's shoes. That's impossible for a man to do, try as you may. But I've tried to look at this issue through the eyes of perhaps a young girl who's made a mistake, who has become pregnant, who is extremely fearful of an overbearing parent. And I've tried to look at it through their eyes. It's very difficult to do. Back to that specific issue, I'm personally opposed to abortion. And I think my votes in the legislature will reflect that position.
You haven't answered the question, or at least I missed it, as to whether you would favor the 24-hour waiting period and the counseling.
I would favor both.
You would favor both?
Yes, sir.
So I take it that both of you have the same position on that question.
It appears.
We're not going to have time to do what I suggested I might do, give each one of you a minute or 2 minutes for closing. But there was so we'll go back to education for one other thing. There was a bill in the last legislature that didn't pass mandating an increase in teachers' pay, mandating it to local educational districts. It failed. I think it was mandating 2 6/10%. Were you for or against that?
2.7.
Was it 2.7?
I voted for that bill in the House.
Were you for or against that? Or would you be for or against? Remember now, this is the legislature and the state telling the local school district what they're going to do about teachers.
Yes, sir. And as much as I don't want any more government interference, I would support that.
Why? In about 10 seconds.
I think teachers are basically underpaid for the services they perform.
Why?
I felt like that education is our future. It's our children's future. It's how Kentucky's going to move forward, and that teachers should be compensated.
You see no inconsistency in your general position that you should have less bureaucracy and things should be left to local control more. Both of you seem to have taken that position, but you don't see any inconsistency in your answer to this?
I don't deny an inconsistency, but I don't think you have to take a hard line on that major issue that you're talking about and not be able to compromise on the other.
I think that the 2.7 increase, most school districts that I've talked with have in fact given more than the 2.7.
Thank both of you, gentlemen. I think it has been something, we've covered a lot of subjects, and I hope the public generally is going to benefit from it.
Thank you.
I thank both of you and appreciate it very much, and I want to thank you on behalf of both the cable company and WCLU.